Yo, what's going on? Yeah, I'm saying podcast, man. We back in the building. Folks getting ready for the July 4th weekend, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Who's ever going to tune in, man? It's I'm saying podcast, you know, the place where, come get have black conversations, you know what I'm saying? We have conversations, you know, uh like on the stoop, barbershop, you know what I'm saying? A lot of black culture. It's about positivity. You can find us now on all streaming platforms. We out there, man, on all streaming platforms. You have to look for, I'm saying, make sure you put apostrophe between the H and the M, um, because I did see some clown that stole we put out there, but it's all good. Uh, yeah, man, what's good, bro?
Oh man, nothing much, man. And I just want to start it off, man. Just say, you know, 4th of July is their freedom, but it ain't ours.
Yeah. Yeah, we
That's
are.
how we want to start the conversation.
Yeah, we already celebrated our freedom and our Independence Day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy, man, trying to get people to understand that, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people who are being willfully ignorant about it, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of folk who the majority of this country, especially when we're talking about white people in this country, the majority of them don't come till after the Civil War, you know what I'm saying? After the
Mhm.
14th Amendment is created, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them have German last names and Scandinavian last names, you know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. So, they don't understand, you know what I'm saying? I seen a video of the lady, this old lady. I'll try to find it where she was talking about like, I don't understand why they have why do they have a Juneteenth? I just don't understand it. Well, you probably don't understand it because your parents don't come here till the late 1800s, early 1900s. That's why. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You
And
know,
our history was never fully taught.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not taught in a truthful manner for sure.
Truthful
You know
manner.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, not taught with and we seen the attacks on 1619. We seen the attacks on stamped from the beginning. Heck, I mean, even white people like Robin DiAngelo who was trying to teach, white folk how to not be you know, racist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, you she got attacked as well. So
Hmm.
excuse me. So, it's interesting how people will believe in myths, and that's a segue into what we're going to talk about tonight, man. We're going to talk about a little bit about the Supreme Court, and getting other stuff, Supreme Court decisions when it comes to affirmative action and student loan forgiveness. You know what I mean? Uh, you know, um, both things were put in place to have a positive outcome for the descendants of enslaved peoples and black peoples in general. You know what I'm saying? And it was struck down by a conservative court, 6-3.
Hmm.
And again, I'll just repeat again. I said this before, and I'll say it again. Modern conservatism is anti-black. That's just what it is. And we know this because you just read Clarence Thomas' dissent, or I mean, I'm sorry, Clarence Thomas's ruling, his opinion. I'm sorry, reading his opinion. I'm going through that right now, so we'll have another show on that, so we can digest exactly what it means for the future, because it
Yeah.
doesn't just affect colleges. Them ending affirmative action has a far-reaching effect. And so we gonna talk about it. Where we at right now. Our feelings on this, and we go from there. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, man. Some of the stuff that you're touching on, where you know conservatism and the history of it, how Billy Graham changed conservatism and so forth. Like people really need to understand how he went from um a more economic based focus you know argument, and saying it tongue in cheek, but um, and it went to digging heels in on the Southern strategy, basically. That's where Billy Graham went to using conspiracies and other tactics to move politics in a different direction.
Yeah, 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 man. Yeah, yeah, and created this part of what the court used for their argument was this idea of color blindness. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Um, and that's what Billy Graham created. Let's see. I have this book right here called White Evangelical Racism, and it talks about it talks about Billy Graham's. It mainly focuses on Billy Graham and how Billy Graham, basically bring this idea of color blindness. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of this is coming from this myth of Martin Luther King. It is no coincidence that they're using, Martin Luther King, this, this myth of Martin Luther King, the only two lines that folks seem to remember, but they're not talking about the Martin Luther King and who in his book Where Do We Go From Here? Community or chaos, right?
Mhm.
Community or chaos, right? The Supreme Court has chose chaos. That's what they've chosen. You know what I'm saying? Conservatism has chose chaos. You know what I'm saying? Not community. So it is you know, with this decision on affirmative action, um, in colleges right now, it's in colleges, but we know that that is going to go beyond colleges because President Biden later came out, during his press conference, and he was like, "Hey, look, listen, businesses, you know, don't be out here discriminating. We know that the Supreme Court just ended affirmative action basically across this country." You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Uh,
you when you tie in the case that they settled on affirmative action, and then also um, the the website designer case, they also right after that ruling in the favor that basically they can discriminate, and you're talking about a business that can now discriminate against groups.
yeah.
You After signing a government contract to get its license, and people need to understand that this is why businesses shouldn't practice in discrimination, is because they're using a government contract to even be licensed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like getting a summary of that case too. You know what I'm saying? So supposedly this business wasn't even started yet.
Yeah,
The website designer, they ain't even started a business, so therefore they didn't get harmed by anybody coming in and say, "Hey, can you design a website for me? I'm LGBTQ, I'm part of LGBTQ, blah 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 blah." They basically just made this up. I
yeah,
think it's like 303 Creative or something. Um,
yeah,
they basically just made up a company and made up harm, and then the conservative court, was like, yeah, we can have you can discriminate. You basically can discriminate for any reason now. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? I don't have to
yeah,
build a website for you if I don't like you if you're black. I don't have to build a website for you if you're a woman. I don't have to build a website for you if you're Muslim. I don't have to build. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? It is. You know, what has happened is that they've given racists reasons to be racist,
yeah.
given given them protection and and and,
Mhm.
and cover for it. You know what I'm saying? Um, oh, excuse me.
Well, John Roberts also he gave the game away,
Mm,
right? Once he wrote his opinion, and you read the opinion, and he and I'm paraphrasing, where he was saying you can't explicitly say, you know, I'm not serving LGBTQ or Jewish people or XYZ. You can't explicitly say that. but you can turn down service.
Yeah,
So here again, it's be bigoted in the closet.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's what they're giving cover to.
yeah. Yeah, that is what they're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, man, and I think that people need to understand, there's 2 points I wanna make here, that we keep making is that there are no both sides here. Going in 2024, there are gonna be people who are gonna make this argument that they're both sides, both sides, both sides. There's no both sides here, right? You're currently, student loans got shot down, you still have President Biden working one side who's working to trying to get folks student debt relief, right? And the other side is trying to undermine that. The reason that the original piece uh, of the orders under the Secretary of Education got went to the Supreme Court is because 6 states led by conservatives or Republican led by the right challenged, what I mean, President Biden and what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? To give relief to regular everyday people. Meanwhile, you have every contender, I think, except for Chris Christie. I haven't heard him say yet, or what's that dude name? Sununu or something. I haven't heard him say yet, but everybody else, guess what they want to do? They want to make the Trump tax cuts permanent.
Yeah.
That doesn't help you.
Yeah.
There are no both sides here, man. Like we fell for that in 2016, and
Mhm.
look where it led us to. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, man. Yeah.
No, yeah, man. Some of the things every court case that you're seeing that come up now, they all have certain key elements to it. They're all brought by right wing groups. Um, they're all funded by a millionaire. Um, and people have to understand that it's a reason why one, rich people don't want certain people to have certain rights. Then two, it's another reason why a party don't want certain people to have certain rights.
Mhm,
And all of it, when you start tying it all in, it ties into capitalism and or what we consider to be capitalism, which is just it's a faux capitalism. It's not it's it's fiat.
mhm.
Um, but people really need to step back and really look at how these tenants are um are long serving, man. Like nothing has really changed.
Mhm.
The same way that they have attacked voting rights in you know the 1800s, they did it in the in the 40s, in the 50s. They are attacking it the same way now today.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the what we're getting to is the only thing that's different is now they're using black people or other people of color to do the work that they have been trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And to drive your point home, so there's this dude, Edward Bloom. Edward Bloom is the individual. Edward Blum, I'm sorry. Edward Blum. He's the person responsible for the affirmative action, case. He tried in 2016 to do the same thing, bring up affirmative action, or that to end affirmative action based on race. You know what I'm saying? But he used a white woman at the time. Her name was Abigail Fisher, in Fisher v. University of Texas. The Supreme Court reaffirmed that the consideration of race as part of a holistic admission process, a practice known as affirmative action, is consistent with the Equal Protection Clause. The Equal Protection Clause is in the 14th Amendment, right? And it's funny because They no one considered the equal protection clause, when it came to when they were discriminating against, black families in separate but equal, right? When they created 2 different schools systems and they were taking and there was no equal system, black parents were sending their children to inferior schools,
Mhm.
inferior buildings, buildings that, in churches and they had to use old books. I remember reading a story where this black school, whenever the white school got rid of their books, they would go to the garbage and pull out, you know, their old books. Of course, this was like the 60s, this was like the 70s. You know what I'm saying? That this was happening. I wish I remember where I read that story at, but I think it might have been in a book, Cast, not Cast, The Warmth of Other Suns. But anyway, so he tried this case. He tried it with Abigail Fisher. However, the problem with Abigail Fisher was that she didn't have the grades. She was saying she was discriminated. She didn't get into University of Texas because of affirmative action. So basically, she was saying the same, saying that she didn't get into University of Texas. So the reason that she didn't get into University of Texas is because there were Black and Latino people who, took her spot, basically. You know what I'm saying? Come to find out, she ain't had the grade average, she ain't had the SAT score, she ain't have the well-roundedness, you know what I mean, in order to get into a lot of these, colleges, which are like selection colleges. So then what Edward Blum does, he creates a website and he's like, I'm looking for an Asian person. And he
Mm.
finds 2 Asian people, you know what I'm saying, who again, they had the grades and they had the SAT scores to get into, Harvard and UNC. They didn't have the other criteria to get in, they didn't get, basically denied because of their race,
Mhm.
and necessarily because of their race, they got denied because they didn't have anything else. You know what I'm saying? However, that didn't matter to the Supreme Court. That didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? They just looked at, race. They specifically looked at race, you know what I'm saying? And how race could be used as a plus, you know what I'm saying? Because Asians, typically, individuals from Asian, backgrounds, certain Asian backgrounds. I'm sorry, I don't like using a racial term of Asians. So, individuals from like Chinese or Vietnamese or Korean backgrounds will generally what happened is that they would basically they, prepare their children for SATs and whatever the other test is, but mainly the SATs. So they get tutors. They literally get tutors. And the tutors, they pay for tutors, and the tutors will prepare them to take the SAT scores. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So a lot of people will be like, "Well, Asians score so high on the SAT." Yeah, that's because they pay. You can look this information up. Um, and so that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? So now you get these Asians who are like, "Well, we had the resources to pay for our SAT scores. We had the
Mhm.
grade. Yeah, but you didn't have the community service. You didn't have the other experience. You didn't have the other criterias."
Well
That
another criteria that Harvard and UNC was arguing was the creativity.
Mhm,
And man, I listened to, one of the gentlemen,
mhm.
and I'm sitting here, he just sounds like a blank sheet.
That's what somebody said. I saw somebody said that. That's what he sound like. He sound
He sounds like a blank sheet.
yeah, yeah. Mhm,
He's and again, I'm gonna say the same thing that you said. But because we're talking about a racialized society, I'm going to point it out that he's imitating white people. It just
yeah,
gotta call it what it is.
yeah, just call it what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and he sounds just like it.
mhm.
It he had no culture of his self.
Mhm. Mhm.
or his history or anything that he can bring to the table that was different or that can describe his his upbringing and for his culture.
Right.
Again, that
Exactly.
is exactly what they were arguing in Harvard and UNC, like, because
Right.
Black people's culture and upbringing is so unique to the history
Mhm.
that, yes, it is hard for us a lot of times to, code switch or, you know, buy into their version of American culture, and it is some people that, from Black culture that do.
Mhm.
And again, it's nothing wrong with it, but you have to state it to be these are just clear facts of look, we buy into certain ideologies as people, and that ideology can be you buying into a belief of another culture.
Yeah. Mhm.
The way that they dress, the way that they talk, the way that they present their like, it's all of these different things.
Yeah, no, that's real, man. I think yeah, the individual I'm looking at right now, his name is Calvin Yang. And look, man, I understand the racist history of why Asians, Asian folks, Americanize, their children's names. You know what I'm saying? But you're n you're Calvin Yang. You don't have like you're saying, he did not present himself or have and that's what like you're saying, UNC
Mhm.
and Harvard argued this.
Yeah.
He's there was nothing, that stood out about his experience of why we need to accept this person and then push them through our program so that they can go out and represent Harvard or UNC,
Mhm.
and change the world.
Yeah.
And like you saying, he wanted to be a mediocre white man. That's really what it is. I mean, that's how that like, that's it. Go to Supreme Court, supremecourt.gov, read it, and I'm breaking it down and reading it myself and highlighting it, so that we can have a conversation with Dr. Ham, but about it. But that's what UNC and Harvard argued. Like, yeah, he didn't, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Because we are you know what I'm saying? I'm being Harvard and UNC.
yeah,
Yeah, we already got like 47% of people that act just like you.
that's what I'm saying.
So why do we need you?
Why do we need another? Yeah, we don't need another one. We don't 43% of the people that get in are legacy emissions, and that's what the Supreme Court didn't get rid of. They didn't get rid of legacy emissions,
Uh,
right? So
yeah.
if you're trying to create, part of it was like the opinion was just get rid of all, get rid of all racial, stuff. Well, why don't you get rid of legacy?
Yeah.
Right, there are people who are getting in because they're saying, "Well, my great, 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 great grandparents went to Harvard." There's a reason that Edward Bloom went after Harvard and UNC. Why? Because they're two of the oldest institutions in America. You know what I'm saying? From the 1600s. So there are people who are of European background who say like, "Oh, well, my great, 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 great went here." So
So
I get in through legacy. I don't need to have a story. I don't need to have an experience. You know what I'm saying? I just show up. You know what I'm saying? I just show up. You know what I mean?
so we went to UNC to take our daughter, right?
Mm.
So we're going through all of the numbers. 70% of their students that get into Harvard are from legacy.
You saying UNC?
UNC,
Yeah, yeah.
70%.
Hmm.
All the rest are pretty much they're paying for college. But again, when you walk on the campus and we were sitting here, we were shocked because we felt like we were in a whole in a different country
Mm, mm,
because there is 37% Asian.
hmm.
And that means and I'm talking about the Asian group. India, um,
Mhm,
China, like all of those. It's more of the that group in those colleges than any other group.
wow.
And see, what people don't understand that was also pointed out in this case was the Asian demographic increased since 2018 to now.
Mhm,
You want to know what demographics dropped in Harvard and UNC? Latino and Black.
and black, yeah. Mhm,
So again, for them to rule where this was a blatant reason why you needed affirmative action. Like that right there, and Ketanji Brown, she called it flat out. She called it flat out.
man, Sanji went in, man.
Yeah, because you can see it on its face. Because they tried to exchange race for class
Right, right, right,
in
right,
the
right.
argument.
Yes, 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 there is a classist argument,
And
like
Cenk Uygur, we got something for
yeah,
you too, because that's the same argument that you were making, which is ridiculous.
mhm,
If you understand the history of any Latino group and Black group in this country, because to even get to a certain class, you had to go through racialized issues.
right. This country discriminated based on race, you know what I'm saying? There were black people who passed, who literally passed, man, if they could, because this country discriminated based on race, man. There was a black dude, he had a popular radio show. He would wear a turban and people thought he was from India. He would put on an Indian accent. This man was black.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like America and people like cringe when folks like me say this, you know what I'm saying? America's a racist country. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And what the Supreme Court really affirmed was that, you know what I'm saying, while you get rid of affirmative action based on race, you know what I'm saying, you are also protecting the caste system, which is built on a hierarchy of race. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? There are the creation of laws and the creation of Supreme Court decisions in this country has an outcome, and that outcome can be positive or negative based on race.
mhm,
Europeans in this country, or people of European descent, you know what I mean? Their their grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents were very deliberate in making sure that they did not have, did not carry on any European, cultural, things, you know what I mean? So that they can become a racial category because there were benefits to that. You know what I'm saying? Because their great grandparents and their great great grandparents and their great great grandparents were discriminated against based on their heritage, their ethnicity, and their culture. All you gotta do is read about it, man. Read about
mhm.
how Germans were discriminated against, how Irish was discriminated against, how Scandinavians were discriminated against.
Polish.
The Polish, yeah, exactly. Read about Chicago. Read about when these folks went to Chicago, how they were discriminated against. You know what I'm saying? So they were like, "Oh no, this is not going to happen to my children. I'm going to make sure my children." Black people are the only cultural ethnic group, you know what I'm saying, outside of indigenous peoples, but we're the only ethnic group in this country that cannot fully assimilate to whiteness. You know what I'm saying? Because of our skin color, you know what I'm saying? Oh, well, you can pretend all you want. You can be Candace Owens all you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the and you could be Clarence Thomas all you want. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you won't be able to assimilate into whiteness. So the Supreme Court decision pretty much allows um, racists to act in a racist manner because it goes beyond just the college universities. It goes beyond that, man. It will go beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Where people,
Well,
go ahead.
here's an anecdotal like story, right? I posted a story about me just trying to walk into a supermarket,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I'm just regular shopping, and a gentleman, he's standing about maybe 5'5" or whatever, and little short pudgy guy.
Hmm.
He stops in the back of his truck. And the only reason why I assumed it's his truck, because it looks like, well, he was parked in the first parking spot and he stood on the side of that door and then came back to the back of the truck. And I got about 10 feet and he said to me, "It's about time to cut your hair, ain't it?" And I got my dreads flowing. And so I was like, "Excuse me?" And he said, "You should head to the barber shop and go on and cut your hair." And, I had to tell him to be I had to catch myself, but I had I told him, I said, "Man, this for the culture. I ain't never cutting this."
Yeah, man.
And and again, it's about people of power or political power giving carte blanche to bigoted people
Mhm.
to act in these manners. And
Yeah,
then
man.
when Clarence Thomas or Tim Scott or Candace Owens or any people of that ilk then justify that it doesn't exist, I have to go in society and experience it.
Yeah,
I suffer because of their ignorance.
yeah, yeah, man. I mean, not just you, the ethnic group as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, this is gonna ring loud.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is gonna ring loud. You know what I'm saying? To where people again, this is Donald Trump running for president, and this is Donald Trump saying ending diversity, equity, and inclusion in the military. It's the same thing. Like it's
Yeah.
people are just like, I ain't gotta be, we ain't gotta be diversity, equitable, or inclusive. Well then,
Mhm.
well then, what is, then what are we celebrating on the fourth then?
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, what type of freedom are you celebrating then? Right?
Yeah.
Whose freedom are you celebrating? Right?
Mhm.
Like, if you're not trying to be diverse, equitable, or inclusive, which the original, which the founders of this country were not, right?
Mhm.
Because it excluded women, it excluded indigenous people, it
Mhm.
excluded, the African peoples, and all you got to do is go read the Declaration of Independence. You know what I'm saying? It excluded all those folks, everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It only encapsulated, wealthy, white men,
Yeah.
and it excluded, poor white folk,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
poor, you know what I'm saying?
Because they
It
wasn't landowners.
exactly, because they were illiterate and they weren't landowners. Exactly, so it excluded them. So what exactly are you know what I'm saying? You wanna end diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, then what are you celebrating this weekend? What are you
Yeah.
celebrating?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, because this is the foolishness, right?
Mhm.
4th of July and, the revolt against, King Charles and all that nonsense and so forth, throwing the tea in the harbor and, like, that's their freedom. Fighting against taxation, that's their freedom, right? But Juneteenth, literally no wage, working as a slave, let's see, fighting against not being murdered, being hung in a tree, um, like so when you really think about it, what was actually freedom?
Hmm.
What was it, throwing stuff in the harbor? Or is it me fighting not to be suppressed by someone with financial means?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And it goes back into saying understanding, like where we are in 2023, right? Like
Mhm.
there are no both sides, man.
Yeah.
Please stop that messaging, man. Like there are no both sides. I don't know what you have been paying attention into. I do not know. I'm sorry, I've been drinking,
Mhm.
but I do not know what you have been paying attention to since the black man and his black wife and his black family got into that White House.
Yeah.
I do not know what you have been paying attention to. There are no both sides here. You know what I'm saying? Like there is, and you said it earlier, within that within the Supreme Court decision, there is a class issue here.
Mhm.
There is a class issue. So if you sitting here, you in your trailer, like, yeah, and an affirmative action, well, that affects you. That affects your kids. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like being on Twitter and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like you can pick up on folk who are who have no ambition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They're sitting here, ch- you know, pom poms cheering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because those are the ones who sitting here crying saying the economy is bad, right?
Yeah.
But you
It's
look
like,
outside, like, I'm looking like, "Shit, my life good."
but you
What you
know,
talking about?
but you know what's crazy? They're saying the economy's bad because they see people like you doing good.
Yes.
That's what it is, and they don't recognize or they don't understand that you doing good or me doing good, people, folk like us doing good is not a it didn't come about because the government, like held our hand, you know what I mean? It came about because of hard work and determination.
Yeah, despite of the government.
Despite exactly, exactly, and that's what the Harvard, and that's what they tried to, the belief in the affirmative, "Oh, these black people must be taking my spot if I can't get in." You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's the same mentality when, you go to your manufacturing job or they go to their manufacturing job and they're like, "Well, I've been working at this company for 15 years and there's this black guy who's taking he's the new manager, the new foreman. I don't understand that."
Yeah.
Maybe he was the most qualified person.
Well, you man, you're pointing out something because Cenk Uygur said that, right? He said
Yeah.
it gives a disservice because it stigmatized black people, and he was saying that basically white people then they get to go and say, "Oh, well, you're only there because of affirmative action," right? But he stopped there. He never continued his thought, right? And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Okay, so if they say that, do they ever ask what that person qualifications are? Did they watch the person in the position either fail or succeed? Or did they automatically just say, 'Oh, you're there because of affirmative action?'" What made them say that? Oh, race. Race, Uger. It
Mhm.
was race. So no matter on what black people do, they will always think that we don't deserve anything. It
Right, yeah.
doesn't matter. That's what the point is.
Yeah, 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 man, and, yeah, and I read what Jenk said, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Jenk, what is you talking about, man?" Like, after, he was like, "I agree with the decision because it stigmatized black people." Like, the first off, it wasn't black people out here like, "You know what? Imma go to these jobs, and Imma apply for these things and go to these places because affirmative action."
Yeah.
That's not what was happening. Like blame, and like Clarence Thomas, right?
Mhm.
There is a documentary on PBS that folks should watch about Clarence Thomas. And instead of Clarence Thomas blaming the system because
Yeah.
he got into Yale, you know what I'm saying? He blamed the people.
Mhm.
So he's like, so when he got into, when he got to the Supreme Court, you know, after only being 6 months on the bench, you know, uh, he was like, I'm gonna dismantle everything. You know what I'm saying? Because to him, to him, it was the people and not the system. He blamed the system. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I got there. There's a part of the documentary where supposedly Clarence Thomas put a 10-cent stamp on his Yale law degree because he felt that affirmative action was the reason he got his Yale law degree. Instead of just saying that, no, I got my law degree because I put in the work, because I put in the time. Y you
I gotta say it, bro.
Go ahead.
I gotta say it, man.
Mhm.
He know he dumb as hell.
Man, look,
He know he dumb as hell. We've been watching Ketanji Brown wipe him on the floor with
white
his arguments, and
look,
she has been using legal case studies,
look, man. Yeah, man. Yeah.
and it shows how he is just a mediocre black man that did like if Jake Uger want to use a person in his argument, it would be Clarence Thomas.
It would be Clarence Thomas. This is why Cenk Uygur don't have a lot of black people that have black commentary. I thought JR was gonna have a lot of commentary on that show, but I don't know what happened to JR. I think maybe he moved behind the camera or whatnot. But but you know what I'm saying? Clarence Thomas would be yeah, and you're right, man, because when Clarence Thomas what folks don't know, when Clarence Thomas was being recommended to take Thurgood Marshall's place, 7 out of 10 African Americans was like, no, he
Yep.
should not, right?
Yep.
Because by that time, people knew who Clarence Thomas was and who Clarence Thomas was going to, who Clarence Thomas was going to rule against
Mhm.
and rule
Mhm.
for. And that's what's happened. Anytime Clarence Thomas has spoken, it has been against black people.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's no coincidence that that his wife, you know what I'm saying, was one of the co-conspirators, behind trying to overthrow the 2020 election. And here's my thing, man, is that people need to understand that the Republican Party at this point in time in 2023 are not about just winning elections. They're
Right.
about staying in power on the state and federal elections.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When Mitch McConnell decided that I ain't gotta listen to this black guy and who's the president of the United States. I don't have to take his nomination. That changed, you know what I'm saying, America, right? When Obama wanted, Neil Gorsuch,
Mhm.
to be the, next Supreme Court, you know what I mean, be on the Supreme Court, you know, Mitch McConnell was like, "Nah, I ain't gotta do that." You know what I'm saying? No precedent, nothing, man,
Yeah.
nothing, because he don't fit. And again, laws are only as strong as the people that enforce them. And if you create laws that give racist power, you know what I'm saying, like Jim Crow or like Mitch McConnell, you know what I'm saying, was able to deny Obama the Supreme Court, and you don't have uh, a society that says, or a government that is operated on quote unquote a gentleman's agreement. You know what I'm saying? The you get where we are today. Get where we are today. Trump did not nominate none of the Supreme Court None of the 3 people who that got to the Supreme Court. We're talking Kavanaugh, uh, Amy Coney Barrett, and there's one more. Can't remember the other. He didn't nominate any of them. You know what I'm saying? They were presented, he signed, and that was it. That was
Yep.
it. That was it.
Actually, it was passed to him, from a group that, they what they do is they cultivate, like, all of these conservative judges, you
Mhm.
know,
The
and
Heritage Foundation.
yeah,
It's like
Heritage Foundation,
the
yeah,
Heritage Foundation.
yeah,
Mhm.
um, and it's a deeper foundation behind the Heritage Foundation. They actually have a documentary called The Family, really good documentary,
Yep, it's a really good documentary. I watched that.
really good, um, and it shows you the inner workings of really the Republican Party,
Mhm.
that their politics are, 1, not natural,
Mhm.
right? Where Democrats, at least most, um, flow with society and
Yep.
the issues in society, where it's more, bottom up rather than top down. Um, and most Republicans, as you see, when you talk to Republican voters, they sound like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Well, when you
Yeah.
go deeper, you start to realize, well, Harlan Crow believes the same thing.
Mhm.
Like, and you go deeper, you just find other billionaires that believe the same thing, that are just passing information to the person that is beneath them,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they are just repeating it all the way down.
Yeah.
Where the Democrats, primarily, like, we getting, most people, we get in the streets and shout. I'm not a protester, but like, that ain't my thing. But call me when it gets
Nothing wrong
messy.
with that.
Yeah,
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, bro. You do what you do what you can
yeah,
when you can.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. But like, the truth of the matter is, they listen to those voters, not 100%, but they listen to those voters. And this particular Democrat Party, which has been different in the last 20 years, where they are listening a lot more to voters.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you start talking about the same sides and this and that, man, they are trying to push conservative Democrats out of the party. That is
Yeah.
what's happening, because they are voting too much with conservatives,
Exactly. Exactly. That's what's happening.
hurting progressive policies that literally help people.
Yeah, man. And people need to live in the now and understand that Biden is look, man, Biden has the complexion to be way more progressive than Obama.
Yeah,
He is being way more progressive than President Obama because at the end of the day he can. Um
he got the complexion for the protection.
Go place for this. That's it. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as the student loan debt relief, what I mean, ended, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, or the Supreme Court shot it down. They didn't really shoot it down. They just said that, hey man, look, if you want student loan protection, it needs to be passed by Congress. What people have been saying for the longest times, and these leftists, like again, we're going back to TYT, Jink Uger, and all these other clowns who don't understand. You know what I mean? Like they are, or they're being very deceitful on uh, uh legislation in this country.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You need more senators. You know what I'm saying? I think at the beginning, you know what I'm gonna do from now on? From now on, I'm gonna say black people, we need to vote at 70%,
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that. Um, but however, we need other folks to vote at higher percentages as well, particularly white women. White women are the reason that we are here today.
Mhm.
They voted overwhelmingly for, excuse me, for President Trump. You, you know what I'm saying? Excuse me. And you've lost.
at the
Roe
detriment of
v.
their health.
Exactly. You've lost Roe v. And people look at Roe v. Wade about abortion, but it's more than that, right? Like,
Mhm.
like you have lost your as a woman, you have lost your freedom to make a choice. You've
Yeah.
lost your freedom. You voted, you know what I'm saying? White women, you can go look. You folk can go look this up because you know what I'm saying. So I can hear people being like, you know what I'm saying. That's pretty racist to say. No, that's not, man. You know what I'm saying. Go look it up, man. Go look it up. White women voted for overwhelmingly for President Trump, and they lost their rights to be. They lost Roe v. Wade, and
Yeah.
then we're here because President Trump got to vote in 3 Supreme Court justices.
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton in January of 2016, before people were able to go to the polls, she sent out a tweet and she said that uh uh this election was about the courts because if Donald basically if a Republican gets elected, they're going to elect more conservative justices. We're here today. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? This is where we're at today. You know what I'm saying? So, 2024, folk has to like, you know what I'm saying? I know we ain't got too much time to talk about Cornell West, but you know what I'm saying? This is not about,
We gonna
Cornell.
spit fire.
What's up?
We can spit fire.
Yeah, this is not about hope, man. Cornell West is like, oh man, I'm trying to be, JFK and blah blah. This ain't about hope, homie. This ain't
Yeah.
about hope. I'm sorry. I don't need hope right now.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't need hope right now, homie. We need functioning. We need protection. We need, you know what I'm saying? Like Dr.
Yeah.
West.
Hope ain't paying my bills.
That's what I'm
Hope ain't
saying.
protecting me from racism.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, man, I love Dr. Cornell West, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everything
With
he's
all
done.
due respect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate everything he's done for the culture, what he's done for and his his ideals and things of that nature. But we don't need hope right now, homie. We don't need hope, right? The president is not a king. Uh, If you're not paying attention, the president is not a king. President O'Biden, I'm sorry, I said O'Biden. President Biden tried to give people debt relief. That just got shot down by our Supreme Court because we have checks and balances.
Yeah.
Supreme Court said you need to pass this in Congress.
Mhm.
That's it. Pass in
Mhm.
Congress. Guess what? You don't have 60 votes in the Congress.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know,
And to dive into everything that you're saying, you know, this is why I made the post, man. I have real questions for Cornell West at this point of time in history. Why choose now
that's what I'm saying.
to run for president? Because we are not in that time where we can play around,
Yeah,
that we can even afford to be shaved off 2-3%,
yeah,
because people have to understand what's happening is, one, black people are being targeted with disinformation. Spanish people are being targeted with disinformation. You want to know where the split votes land at every election? It's really with black people and Latinos.
mhm.
Like, they already have the data. All they all they need to do is just shave off 10% or close to it, and they can make a contestant race. That is it.
That's what Steve Bannon said. Steve Bannon said, "I don't." As Steve Bannon said, "We just need to talk to black men. If we can get black men, we'll win elections forever."
Yeah, we just need to tip them over 15%.
15%, exactly. If you get black men at 15%, you'll win elections, man, forever, man. Yeah, man.
And this is, man, I was happy that Cornell West put his hat in there. I was concerned, I was sad, I was angry that he also put his hat in there.
Yeah.
Um, because this is just not the time.
This is not the time, man. This not the time, man.
After Biden, after 4 more years, hopefully if a Democrat win, and I'm only saying a Democrat because no, we are not a Democrat shield or whatever it may be. It's just Republicans don't have policies that will help me in my everyday life.
Exactly. That's it.
I don't see no platform. Look, banning books don't help me. Getting rid of Roe v. Wade definitely don't help me. It pisses me off because I got daughters.
Exactly.
Now, you want to talk about what else they're trying to get rid of, CRT. That don't help me. That don't do nothing for me. That ain't helping me retire. That
Yeah.
ain't helping me pay no bills. That ain't helping me sit back and try to get these kids through college.
At all. And and that's what the House, most of those Republicans that ran in the House. And let's understand something. Republicans in the House did not win because they ran on a good platform. They won because of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
So now that they're in the House, they're not passing anything. They're not passing legislation,
Mm-mm.
to help the everyday American. They sitting here talking to Biden about inflation. They haven't passed one bill to address inflation. They
No.
haven't passed one bill to raise the minimum wage. They haven't passed one bill to relieve the American family. You know who they're going after? Hunter Biden. Hunter
Hunter Biden.
Biden. He's a civilian. He's a regular citizen.
Yeah.
Well, what is going after Hunter Biden? You know what I mean? He has to prove with anything. Nothing, man. Nothing, man. Because again, like we're saying, there are no both sides here. There are no both sides, man. Excuse me. And we simply can't fall for the tricks in 2016. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
like you laid out you perfectly, man. The Republican parties are the option. The Republican Party at a federal and state level are the opposition party.
Yes.
CRT, Roe v. Wade. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Now we're at affirmative action, student loan debt. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like what else do you need to hear? What else do you need to see?
Man, they're cutting police funding. They are literally cutting police funding,
Crazy.
trying to do it by the 2022 budget, which means if inflation is sitting here eating up the budget, it's a cut.
Yeah.
It's a cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with healthcare. They're literally trying to cut Social Security.
They already been on record, man. They want to privatize Social Security, man. You know what I mean? And for those black folks that are like myself, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm already at the realization that uh reparations is never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um that's just where I'm at. But if you believe reparations is gonna happen, well, guess what? Republican Party don't think so.
No.
Ron DeSantis, it's crazy because Ron DeSantis had he had an event where Fort Bragg in North Carolina was renamed to two black people, a man and a woman.
Mhm.
He went there and was like, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change it back to the Confederate name."
Yeah.
Come on, man!
Yeah.
Like,
Look,
black
they're
black
not
people
even
are
being
there.
quiet about it.
What's that?
They're not even being quiet about it.
No, they don't have to no more. They don't have to no more. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like Trump, when Trump ran and the media, lapped up, with Trump,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Trumpism. They gave him carte blanche
Yeah.
to to say whatever it is that he want, whatever, you know what I'm saying? This is going
Mhm.
back to George we're almost going back to George Wallace, being on TV, except George Wallace, George Wallace, or Trump ain't saying, the N word, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
this is where we at in America, man. This is where we at, man. And again, man, when people like me say America is a racist country,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention who it benefits and who, you know what I'm saying? Uh, um, and the you know the politics and social order of things, man.
Man, look, yeah, what you pointing out, man, and over episodes, you keep expressing it, you keep giving information where people can literally find actual information, right?
Hmm.
Um, man, look, I think people really need to step back, look at some things, look at these people's agendas. What are they doing? Who are they tied to? There's resources like open source .org, those places that tell you where money goes to, what politician is being paid off.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It tells you. And then you're talking about, when you speak to, a white conservative, and they want to use blacks for Trump. Man, don't tell me about blacks for Trump. That man ain't even smart enough to sit back and think for himself,
Exactly.
because he was in a cult that was sitting here committing crimes. That man ain't even smart enough to think for himself.
That's facts, man. That's facts, man. But it ain't gonna matter because he black. Because it ain't gonna matter,
Yes.
right? It's like Candace Owens and Clarence Thomas. All that stuff don't matter. You know what I'm saying? As long as they show up in a blackface, you know what I'm saying? As long as they show up in a blackface and they present themselves as not liking black people, being anti-black, number one, you know what I mean? And protecting the caste system, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what their record was or or any of that, man. None of that matters. None of that
Yeah.
matters. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, man. When I see them black for Trump folk, I be like,
Mm.
man, they just picked the bottom of the barrel, man.
Bottom of the barrel.
Bottom of the
Ain't no way.
barrel.
Ain't no way I'm listening to nobody that still got a Jerry curl in 2023. I ain't listening to nobody got a Jerry curl in 2023, dog. You know what I'm talking about? Bro, look, man, I ain't doing it.
And it ain't even right color, man. It's jet black. Bro, man, it
Oh,
ain't even
man.
color. Your hair is jet black. Like people of African descent don't have jet black hair,
You
homie.
lined it up in a little ponytail too? Nah, man, I'm done.
Yeah, he put
I'm
it in a
done.
ponytail, bruh, man. Yo, man. We ain't got jet black hair, homie. You know what I mean?
Would you
That's
take hair advice from that guy?
nah,
Come
nah,
on.
man. Come on, dog. Come on,
Come
man.
on, man.
Come on,
How you gonna trust him with politics? Come on.
man. That's just facts, man.
God,
That's just facts.
boy.
Anyway, all right, bro, man. Any last words, bro?
Look, man, black folk, keep your head on the swivel. Brown folk, I'm talking about like Asians, Puerto
Mm,
Rican, like in any of those cultures, man. Look, don't 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 find yourself being used by a group and not understanding what you're being used for.
mm. Yeah, man.
Because at the end of the day, once you go after a group, it's only time before you become the group that they go after.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. No, no, no. That's good, man. That's where we're gonna end it, man. We're gonna end it, man. It's just, you know, as always, man, or as always, but you can find us on Apple, or you will find us on Apple, Google, Alexa. We are out there, man. Go support us, man. We trying to have these cultural, you know, black conversations. And as always, man, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can always hit us up at, saying, podcast1 at gmail.com. That's YAHMSAYIN, podcast1 at gmail.com, man. Hit us up, man, and be part of the conversation, man. Um, yeah, man. And we out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Peace.
Stay free.
Yes, sir.